1 week after my wedding, the photographer called me and said, "Ma'am, I noticed something disturbing in your photos. Come now. Don't let your husband know." What she showed me shattered my entire world. The morning after our honeymoon ended, Marcus left for work at 6:47 a.m. I remember the exact time because I watched him back out of our driveway from the bedroom window, his silver Audi gleaming under the September sun, and I thought to myself, this is the beginning of our real life together. 7 days married. 7 days of waking up next to the man I'd loved since junior year of college. 7 days of calling him my husband and feeling that electric thrill every single time. Our honeymoon in Costa Rica had been perfect, or at least, it had seemed that way. We'd hiked to waterfalls and watched the sunset over the Pacific and made love in a treehouse overlooking the rainforest canopy. Marcus had been attentive, romantic, everything a new husband should be. He'd held my hand during the entire flight home, tracing circles on my palm with his thumb, and whispered about all the adventures we'd have together. I believed every word. That Monday morning, I'd woken up early despite the jet lag, too excited about our new chapter to sleep. I'd made breakfast while Marcus showered, scrambled eggs with chives, the way he liked them, and fresh squeezed orange juice because we were celebrating. Celebrating the rest of our lives. He kissed me at the door, lingering longer than necessary. "I wish I didn't have to go back already," he'd said. "Another week with you sounds a lot better than quarterly reports." "We have forever now," I reminded him. "Go. Make money. I'll be here when you get back." He'd smiled that smile, the one that had made me fall for him in a crowded lecture hall 8 years ago, and then he was gone, reversing down the driveway in that silver car he'd bought to celebrate his promotion last spring. I spent the morning unpacking honeymoon souvenirs and starting laundry and doing all the mundane domestic tasks that suddenly felt magical because I was doing them as a wife. Mrs. Emmeline Callahan. The name still felt new on my tongue. My phone rang at 9:15 a.m. I was still in my bathrobe, drinking coffee and scrolling through our wedding photos that friends had posted on social media, tagging us with heart emojis and congratulations. Our florist had commented on the ceremony shots, calling them absolute dreams. My college roommate had reposted our first dance photo with the caption, "This is what true love looks like." "Mrs. Callahan? This is Diane Moretti, your wedding photographer." I smiled, setting down my mug. Diane had been incredible, patient with my anxious mother, creative with the pose shots, and somehow everywhere at once during the reception. "Diane. Hi. I was actually going to call you this week. When will the full gallery be ready?" There was a pause. The kind of pause that makes your stomach clench before your brain catches up. "Mrs. Callahan, I need you to come to my studio. Today, if possible." "Is something wrong with the photos?" I was already catastrophizing. The lighting was off. The backup drive crashed. The most important day of my life wasn't properly documented. I can't discuss this over the phone." Her voice dropped lower. "And please, don't mention this call to your husband. I know that sounds strange, but I need you to trust me. Can you come at noon?" The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. Diane Moretti worked out of a converted warehouse in the Arts District, all exposed brick and natural light flooding through industrial windows. I'd been there twice before, once during our initial consultation and once for the engagement shoot. Both times, the space had felt warm and creative. Today, it felt like a courtroom. I'd agonized over the drive, replaying Diane's words in my mind. "Don't mention this call to your husband." The secrecy felt theatrical, almost melodramatic. Maybe there was a simple explanation. Maybe one of my relatives had made an inappropriate toast she wanted to warn me about before posting the photos publicly. Maybe Marcus's uncle had gotten too handsy with a bridesmaid and she wanted to offer me the option of editing him out. But even as I constructed these possibilities, something deeper and more primal told me I was wrong. The tone of her voice. The weight of her pauses. Whatever she'd seen wasn't embarrassing. It was devastating. Diane met me at the door. She was in her mid-50s, silver-streaked hair pulled back in a practical bun, reading glasses hanging from a beaded chain around her neck. She'd photographed over 300 weddings. I remembered her telling me that during our first meeting. I remembered thinking how reassuring that was. "Thank you for coming." She didn't smile. "Please. Sit." Her editing suite was set up in the back corner, 3 massive monitors arranged in a curve, a professional-grade tablet, stacks of hard drives organized on metal shelving. The walls were decorated with framed prints from past weddings, happy couples, candid moments, all the joy she'd captured over 2 decades. Looking at them now felt like looking at a museum exhibit from a world I no longer belonged to. She pulled up a second chair and sat beside me. Before I show you anything, I need you to understand something. Diane folded her hands in her lap. I've been doing this for 22 years. I've seen a lot of things through my lens. Drunk uncles. Family feuds. One time, a groom passed out face first into the cake. But I've only made this call, the call I made to you this morning, 3 times in my career. My heart was hammering. You're scaring me. I know. And I'm sorry. She turned to the center monitor. I was editing the reception photos last night. The candidates from the cocktail hour, specifically. I capture a lot during that window, guests mingling, the wedding party relaxing before the formal events begin. Most of it is filler. Background. Nice to have shots. She clicked through to a folder labeled Callahan_wedding_cocktail. Your husband spent most of the cocktail hour with his groomsmen by the bar. Normal? Expected. But I noticed something in the background of several frames. She enlarged a photo. Marcus was laughing, drink in hand, his best man Derek's arm around his shoulder. Behind them, slightly out of focus, 2 figures stood near the garden archway. That's your maid of honor, correct? Kelsey Porter? I nodded. Kelsey. My best friend since freshman year of high school. The girl who'd held my hair back after my first heartbreak. The woman who'd spent 6 months helping me plan every detail of this wedding. And that man beside her? I squinted at the photo. Tall, dark hair, charcoal suit. I don't. That's not someone I recognize. Look closer. Diane zoomed in further. The image pixelated slightly, but the features became clearer. Strong jaw. Roman nose. The way he tilted his head when he listened. Marcus. My Marcus. I don't understand, I said, but even as the words left my mouth, something cold was spreading through my chest. He was at the bar. You just said. This was taken at 5:47 p.m. Diane's voice was gentle but precise. The timestamp on the bar photo is 5:52. 5 minutes later. She clicked to the next image. Same angle, different moment. Kelsey's hand was on Marcus's chest. Not casually. Intimately. Her fingers splayed across his heart. Click. Marcus leaning down, his lips at her ear. Click. Kelsey laughing, her head thrown back, her body curved toward him like a flower toward sunlight. Click. His hand at the small of her back. These were taken over a span of 8 minutes, Diane said quietly. During your cocktail hour. While you were inside with your mother, adjusting your veil for the formal portraits. I couldn't speak. The room was tilting. There's more. Diane hesitated. This is the part I debated showing you. But I believe you deserve the full truth. She opened a new folder. This one was labeled Callahan_wedding_late. After the reception ended, I stayed behind to capture some detailed shots of the venue. The centerpieces, the cake remnants, the leftover favors. It's part of my process, the aftermath tells a story too. She pulled up a series of images. The empty dance floor. Scattered rose petals. And then, the storage closet door, cracked open. Light spilling from inside. I heard voices. Thought it might be venue staff. Diane's jaw tightened. I took 3 photos before I realized what I was seeing. The first, 2 silhouettes, pressed together. The second, a woman's dress, coral pink, the exact shade of Kelsey's maid of honor gown, hiked up around her thighs. The third, Marcus's face, unmistakable, his eyes closed, his expression one I thought was reserved only for me. I vomited into my hands. Diane was prepared. She handed me tissues, a glass of water, a small plastic waste bin. She rubbed my back while I heaved and sobbed and tried to force air into lungs that had forgotten how to function. The images were burned into my retinas. I saw them even with my eyes closed. My husband's face, twisted in pleasure. My best friend's dress, bunched around her waist. The dim light of that closet, turning their betrayal into shadow puppets on the wall. I thought of all the times I'd trusted them together. All the wedding planning sessions where I'd left them alone while I ran errands. All the group dinners where they'd sat across from each other, passing plates and sharing jokes that I'd assumed were innocent. The night before the wedding, when Kelsey had stayed late helping me calm my nerves while Marcus was supposedly out with his groomsmen, had he been with her then too? Had they been laughing about me the whole time? I'm so sorry, Diane kept saying. I'm so sorry. When I could finally speak again, my voice sounded like a stranger's. How do I know these aren't doctored? People can fake photos. They can. The metadata is intact. The raw files are untouched. I'll give you copies of everything, every file, every timestamp, every piece of verification you need. Diane's eyes were wet. I wish I were lying to you. I've never wished more desperately that I were wrong about something. She explained the technical details patiently, how raw files contain uneditable metadata, how the timestamp is embedded at the moment of capture, how forensic analysis can detect any manipulation. I absorbed almost none of it. My brain was too busy rewinding through my entire relationship, searching for signs I'd missed. The late nights at the office that Marcus had started claiming 6 months ago. The new perfume Kelsey had been wearing at my bridal shower, had she chosen it because Marcus liked it? The way they both seemed nervous at the rehearsal dinner, avoiding eye contact, making excuses to leave early. I'd noticed all of it. But I'd explained it away. Work stress. Wedding jitters. The chaos of bringing two families together. I'd been a fool. I stared at the frozen image on the screen. My husband. My best friend. On my wedding night. What do I do? I whispered. Diane pressed a flash drive into my palm. First, you take this. Then, you decide. But whatever you do it on your own terms. I drove around for 3 hours before I went home. I couldn't face the house. The house Marcus and I had bought together 7 months ago. The house where we painted the bedroom morning dove because I couldn't decide between gray and blue and he'd said, why not both? The house where we'd made love on the living room floor the night we got the keys because we couldn't wait to christen our first real home together. Every memory was infected now. Every kiss, every whisper, every plan for the future, all of it had been happening while he was touching her. While he was wanting her. I pulled into a grocery store parking lot and screamed until my throat was raw. Then I called my older sister, Natalie. Whoa, slow down. Nat's voice cut through my hyperventilating sobs. I can't understand you. Where are you? I need you to come get me. I can't drive. I can't, Nat, I can't breathe. She found me 20 minutes later, curled in the front seat of my car, clutching that flash drive like a grenade. She didn't ask questions. She just transferred me to her passenger seat, drove us to her apartment, wrapped me in a blanket, and sat with me while I showed her the photos. My sister was 5 years older than me and had always been the practical one in our family. She talked me through my first breakup in high school, coached me through the anxiety of job interviews, and helped me negotiate the salary at my current position. When our mother passed away 3 years ago, Natalie had handled everything: the funeral arrangements, the estate paperwork, the impossible task of dismantling a life. She was the rock I'd always leaned on. This was the first time I'd ever seen her look genuinely murderous. Natalie was silent for a long time after viewing the photos. Her face cycled through expressions: disbelief, fury, devastation, until it finally settled into something cold and controlled. "You're not going home tonight," she said. "I have to." Marcus will wonder. "No." Natalie's voice left no room for argument. "You're staying here. You need time to think. To plan." She turned to face me fully. "Emmeline, listen to me. This man betrayed you on your wedding night. With your best friend. If you go back there right now, while you're in shock, you'll say things you can't take back. Or worse, you'll let him talk his way out of it before you're ready to fight. What if I don't want to fight? What if I just want to scream at him and never see his face again? You can do that too. But not tonight." Natalie gripped my hands. "Tonight, you're going to eat something. You're going to try to sleep. And tomorrow, when you've had time to process this, we're going to figure out your options." I wanted to argue. I wanted to run straight to Marcus and demand answers, scream at him until he confessed everything, until he fell to his knees and begged forgiveness. But Natalie was right. I'd watched enough friends go through ugly breakups to know that the ones who came out strongest were the ones who strategized. Who planned. Who didn't let their emotions sabotage their leverage. I texted Marcus, "Staying at Nat's tonight. She's having a crisis. Love you." His response came immediately, "Everything okay? Want me to come?" Natalie read over my shoulder and laughed bitterly. The concerned husband routine. Classic. "He's good at it," I said flatly. "I fell for it for 8 years." I typed back, "No, she just needs me. Girl stuff. I'll be home tomorrow." 3 heart emojis. "Sleep well, beautiful wife." I handed my phone to Natalie. "Take it. I can't look at his messages anymore." She tucked it in a drawer and brought me a glass of wine. Normally, I wasn't much of a drinker, but I finished it in 4 swallows. We need to think about this carefully, Natalie said, settling onto the couch beside me. What do you actually know? Not suspect, no. I closed my eyes. I know they were together during the cocktail hour. I know they were in that closet. The photos prove that. But they don't prove how long it's been going on. They don't prove whether this was a one-time thing or a months-long affair. Does it matter? He was with her on our wedding night. That's not a drunken mistake. That's a choice. Natalie nodded slowly. You're right. But if you're going to confront him, if you're going to leave him, you need the full picture. For the divorce. For the prenup. The prenup. I'd almost forgotten. Marcus had insisted on it, back when we got engaged. His family was wealthy, old money, real estate investments, a portfolio managed by his father's firm. I'd been offended at first, hurt that he wanted legal protection from me, but he'd explained that it was a family requirement. His parents wouldn't release his trust fund without it. I'd signed willingly. I had nothing to hide. My assets were modest, a small savings account, my car, my half of the house we'd bought together with commingled funds. But the prenup had a fidelity clause. I remembered the lawyer's dry voice explaining it. In the event of infidelity by either party, the wrong spouse is entitled to 80% of marital assets plus a lump sum settlement. It had seemed absurd at the time. A formality. Marcus would never cheat on me. The fidelity clause, Natalie said, reading my thoughts. If you can prove he cheated. I have photos. Photos from one night. A good lawyer might argue that's not enough to trigger the clause. That it was a momentary lapse, not an ongoing affair. Natalie's expression hardened. We need more. We need evidence that this wasn't just one night. I thought of Kelsey. Kelsey, who'd been my maid of honor. Kelsey, who'd helped me pick out my wedding dress, who'd thrown my bachelorette party, who'd cried happy tears during my vows. Kelsey, who'd been sleeping with my husband. How long? How long had they been deceiving me? There's something else, I said slowly. Something that didn't make sense at the time. Tell me. About a month before the wedding, Kelsey got weird. Distant. She missed 2 dress fittings and blamed work. She stopped responding to group texts about the seating chart. I thought she was just stressed. Her job at the marketing firm had been brutal, but she also started asking strange questions about Marcus. About whether I was sure he was the one. Whether I'd ever had doubts. Natalie's eyes narrowed. She was testing the waters. Seeing if there was a crack she could exploit. And I brushed it off. I told her Marcus was perfect. My voice cracked. I defended him to her. To the woman who was sleeping with him. We sat in heavy silence for a moment. Then Natalie reached for her laptop. What are you doing? Research. If they've been carrying on an affair, there will be traces. Credit card receipts. Hotel reservations. Texts. Emails. She looked at me. Do you have access to Marcus's accounts? We share a family banking login. And his email is connected to the household laptop. Natalie's smile was thin and predatory. Good. Then we start there. Update 1. It's been 4 days since Diane showed me those photos. 4 days of living a double life, returning home to Marcus, pretending everything was normal, watching him kiss my forehead each morning while knowing exactly where his lips had been. I deserve an Oscar. The first night I went back, I claimed exhaustion from helping Natalie through her crisis. Marcus was sympathetic. Attentive. He made me dinner. He drew me a bath. He crawled into bed beside me and held me close, murmuring about how lucky he was to have such a caring wife. I wanted to vomit again. But I kept my composure. I smiled and kissed him back and waited until he fell asleep before slipping out of bed to examine our shared laptop. Natalie had coached me on what to look for. I started with Marcus's email, using the password I'd known for years, our anniversary date plus my initials. Lazy. He'd always been lazy about security. His inbox was normal. Work emails. Fantasy football updates. A newsletter from his college alumni association. Nothing suspicious at first glance, nothing that screamed betrayal. I scrolled through weeks of mundane correspondence, wondering if I'd been wrong about everything. Then I checked his deleted folder, the one he'd clearly never bothered to truly empty. Most people didn't realize that deleting an email didn't make it disappear, that digital breadcrumbs could linger for months in folders you forgot existed. Kelsey's name appeared 17 times. My hands trembled as I clicked on the oldest message, dated 4 months ago. Just after we'd finalized the wedding venue. Thinking about you today. Last night was perfect. My stomach lurched. I clicked on the next one. A week later. We need to be more careful. She almost saw my phone. And the next. 2 weeks after that. I know this is complicated. But I can't stop. I've tried. You're in my blood. I photographed each email. 17 messages spanning 4 months, carefully deleted but never permanently erased. 17 pieces of proof that my husband had been unfaithful long before our wedding night. The language in those emails haunted me. Marcus had always been articulate. One of the things that had attracted me to him in college was the way he could turn a phrase, make ordinary moments feel poetic. Now I understood that all those beautiful words he'd whispered to me over the years had been recycled. Shared. Given to Kelsey with the same practiced sincerity he'd used on me. You're in my blood. He'd said that to me once, on a beach in Maine, during our first trip together. I thought it was romantic. I thought it was ours. Then I checked the credit card statements. Marcus handled our joint finances. He'd always been the numbers person in our relationship. I trusted him completely, signing off on budgets, nodding along to his explanations of our investment strategy, never questioning the line items on our monthly statements. I question them now. The Ridgemont Hotel, $247. The same hotel appeared 3 more times over the past 4 months, always on weeknights when Marcus had claimed to be working late. Bellissima Spa, $189. A couple's massage package. Marcus hated massages. He'd refused to get one on our honeymoon. Amelia's fine jewelry, $1,200. I didn't own any jewelry from Amelia's. I documented everything. Screenshots. Downloads. Timestamps. Then I checked Kelsey's social media. She posted nothing about the wedding. No photos of us together. No congratulations to the happy couple. Just a series of melancholy quotes about following your heart and the ones that got away. Subtle. If you weren't looking for it. I called Natalie the next morning. I found it, I said. All of it? 4 months, maybe longer. Hotel receipts. Emails. He bought her jewelry. Natalie exhaled. Good. Now we build the case. I want to confront him. I want to, not yet. Her voice was firm. You confront him now, you give him time to spin a story. To hide assets. To get his own lawyer involved. We need to be smarter than that, Em. We need to control the timing. So what do I do? You keep playing the happy wife. You gather more evidence. And you meet with a divorce attorney, a good one. Someone who specializes in high asset cases. I can't afford, you won't have to. The fidelity clause means Marcus's family will be paying your legal fees when this is over. I could hear the grim satisfaction in Natalie's voice. They wanted that prenup so badly? Well, now it's going to cost them. She gave me a name, Rebecca Ashworth, a partner at one of the most prestigious family law firms in the city. I called that afternoon and booked a consultation for the following week. In the meantime, I kept digging. The jewelry purchase nagged at me. $1,200 was significant, not a casual gift. Marcus was generous, but he was also practical. He wouldn't spend that kind of money on something meaningless. I remembered something Kelsey had worn to my bridal shower. A delicate gold bracelet with a tiny charm, a sparrow in flight. I'd complimented it. She'd blushed and said it was a gift from a friend. A sparrow. Kelsey's last name was Finch. Close enough to be meaningful to someone who thought he was clever. I found the Amelia's Fine Jewelry website and scrolled through their catalog. There it was, the Songbird collection. Delicate chains with bird-shaped charms. The sparrow design, in 14K gold, was priced at $1,195. He bought his mistress a necklace with her namesake bird. While I was planning our wedding. The rage I felt was cold and clarifying. Not the hot, explosive anger of betrayal that had burned through me in the first 48 hours. This was different. This was focused. Marcus wanted to play games? Fine. I could play too. The next few days were a masterclass in deception. I cooked Marcus's favorite meals. I laughed at his jokes. I initiated intimacy, which felt like swallowing broken glass, but I needed him comfortable. Unsuspecting. Careless. And he was careless. Remarkably so. His phone buzzed constantly. He claimed it was work, but I noticed him angling the screen away from me. Smiling at messages he never showed me. Taking calls in the garage for better reception. One evening, while he was in the shower, I picked up his phone. No passcode. He'd removed it. When had he done that? We'd always shared passwords before. I didn't have much time. I opened his texts and found what I was looking for immediately. Kelsey's contact was saved under Derek M. His best man's name. A pathetically transparent cover. Miss you. Tonight was close. She almost checked my phone. When can I see you again? The wedding was torture. Watching you promise yourself to her. I wanted to scream. I photographed the thread. Every message. Every timestamp. Then I replaced the phone exactly where I'd found it and went to bed with a smile on my face. Marcus emerged from the bathroom, toweling off his hair, and climbed in beside me. You seem happy tonight, he observed. I am. I kissed his cheek. Just feeling grateful. For what? For everything becoming so clear. He frowned slightly. What do you mean? Nothing. I turned off the lamp. Good night, Marcus. My consultation with Rebecca Ashworth was everything I'd hoped for. She was in her late 40s, impeccably dressed, with a steady gaze of someone who had seen every possible permutation of marital destruction. Her office was decorated with diplomas and awards. One framed article on the wall was titled "The Woman Who Makes Billionaires Cry." I laid out everything: the photos, the emails, the credit card statements, the text messages. She examined each piece of evidence with clinical precision, making notes on a yellow legal pad. The fidelity clause is airtight, she said finally. Your husband's family must have hired competent counsel when they drafted this prenup. Which means they knew the consequences of infidelity and accepted them. She looked up at me. This is one of the most thoroughly documented adultery cases I've ever seen. You have timestamps, you have receipts, you have photographic evidence of the physical affair. A judge will have no choice but to enforce the clause. What does that mean for me, specifically? Based on the terms of your prenup and the current estimated value of marital assets, which includes your husband's trust fund distributions since your marriage, you're looking at a settlement in the range of $2 to $3 million. The number didn't register. It was too large. Too abstract. That doesn't include potential damages for emotional distress, Rebecca continued, or any additional assets we may uncover during discovery. Men who cheat often hide money. It's practically a rule. What do I do now? Now? Rebecca smiled. It was not a warm smile. Now we file. But first, I recommend one more step. What's that? Confrontation. On your terms. She leaned forward. You have enough evidence to bury him. But juries and judges respond to narrative. They want to see the wronged wife face her cheating husband. They want to see his reaction when he realizes he's been caught. You want me to record him. I want you to get him to admit everything, in his own words, on camera. It's not strictly necessary, given what you already have, but it's powerful. It eliminates any possible defense of those emails were misinterpreted or those photos were doctored. She handed me a small device. This is a pen camera. Legal in our state for one-party consent recording. You wear it during the conversation. You get him talking. And then you walk away. I took the pen and turned it over in my hands. It looked completely ordinary. One more thing. Rebecca's expression softened slightly. The other woman. You mentioned she's your best friend. Was my best friend. Have you considered confronting her as well? I thought about it constantly. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Kelsey's face. Her smile at my bridal shower. Her tears during my vows. All of it fake. All of it calculated. I want her to suffer, I said. Is that wrong? It's human. But from a legal standpoint, she's not your primary concern. Your husband is the one bound by the prenup. She's just collateral. Collateral. I filed that word away for later. I planned the confrontation for a Friday evening. Marcus always came home early on Fridays. It was our night, he said. The night we disconnected from work and focused on each other. The irony was not lost on me. I set the stage carefully. Wine chilling in the fridge. Candles on the table. Soft music playing from the speakers, the same playlist we danced to at our wedding reception. To Marcus, it would look like a romantic surprise, a celebration of our first month of marriage. To me, it was a funeral for everything I'd thought my life would be. I'd practiced what I was going to say 100 times in the mirror. I'd rehearsed every word until they didn't feel real anymore, until they were just sounds I could make without my voice breaking. Natalie had offered to wait outside in her car, but I'd refused. This was something I needed to do alone. He walked through the door at 6:15, loosening his tie. Something smells amazing. What's the occasion? I smiled. The pen camera was clipped to my blouse, positioned at chest height, recording everything. No occasion. Just wanted to do something special for my husband. We ate dinner. I let him talk about his day, nodded along to his stories about difficult clients and quarterly projections, refilled his wine glass when it ran low. He was relaxed. Happy. Completely oblivious. He kept reaching across the table to touch my hand, commenting on how beautiful I looked in the candlelight, how lucky he was to have me. Every compliment felt like salt poured into an open wound. After we finished eating, I cleared the plates and returned to my seat across from him. The transition was deliberate. I needed him comfortable, slightly tired from the meal, his defenses lowered. Marcus, I said. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. His smile faltered. Of course. What's wrong? Are you having an affair with Kelsey? The silence stretched between us like a wire pulled taut. What? His laugh was forced, too loud for the quiet room. That's insane. Kelsey is your best friend. Why would you even? I have photos. I kept my voice steady, clinical, the way Rebecca had coached me. From our wedding? Photos of you and Kelsey during the cocktail hour. Photos of you and Kelsey in a storage closet during the reception. The color drained from his face like water circling a drain. I have emails. 17 of them, from the past 4 months. I can't stop. You're in my blood. Does that ring a bell? Emmeline, I can explain. I have credit card statements. The Ridgemont Hotel. The spa. The jewelry you bought her. I pulled out my phone and showed him a screenshot of the sparrow bracelet. You gave her a bird because her name is Finch. Very romantic. Marcus was breathing hard. His eyes darted around the room like a trapped animal searching for an exit that didn't exist. And I have text messages. The ones you've been sending to Derek M. The ones where you called our wedding torture because you had to watch me promise yourself to her. He flinched at that. Actually flinched, like I'd struck him. So. I set my phone down on the table, face up, so he could see the evidence glowing on the screen. Tell me the truth. All of it? From the beginning. For a long moment, he didn't speak. I watched his face cycle through expressions, denial, calculation, fear, and finally something that looked almost like relief. The relief of a man who had been carrying a secret for too long and no longer had the strength to hold it. What followed was almost impressive in its awfulness. The affair had started 6 months ago, not 4. They'd been careful at first, just texts, just lunches. But it had escalated quickly. By the time we finalized our wedding venue, they were meeting at hotels twice a week. Marcus claimed he tried to end it. He claimed he loved me. He claimed Kelsey was the one who kept pursuing him, who wouldn't let go, who threatened to tell me everything if he broke things off. So you slept with her on our wedding night because she forced you to? I asked coldly. He had no answer for that? Why? I pressed. Why did you marry me if you were in love with her? I'm not in love with her. His voice cracked. I love you. I've always loved you. Kelsey was a mistake. A weakness. But you're my wife. You're my life. Was I your life when you were booking hotel rooms with her? Was I your life when you were buying her jewelry while I was addressing wedding invitations? I shook my head. You don't get to claim you love me, Marcus. You lost that right the first time you touched her. He reached for my hand. I pulled away. I'll end it, he said desperately. Right now. I'll call her and end it in front of you. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. You can't fix this. There's nothing left to fix. I stood up. I'm filing for divorce. My attorney will be in contact with yours. Marcus's face contorted. Divorce? Emmeline, we've been married for 2 weeks, and you've been cheating for 6 months. The prenup has a fidelity clause. Your family insisted on it, remember? 80% of marital assets plus a settlement. He went pale. Then red. Then a shade of purple I'd never seen on a human face. You can't do this. His voice dropped, low and dangerous. My family will destroy you in court. They have the best lawyers money can buy. Then I suggest you tell them to get started. I picked up my purse. I'll be staying at Natalie's. Have your attorney contact Rebecca Ashworth. She's expecting to hear from them. I walked out the door without looking back. Update 2. It's been 3 months since I left Marcus. The divorce proceedings have been brutal, as expected. His family threw everything they had at me: accusations of entrapment, claims that the evidence was fabricated, demands for forensic analysis of every photograph and email. They hired 3 different law firms in succession, each one more aggressive than the last. One of their attorneys actually suggested in a deposition that I had orchestrated the entire affair myself, that I had somehow manipulated Kelsey into seducing my husband so that I could trigger the fidelity clause and steal the family's money. The argument was so absurd that even their own expert witness couldn't make it sound plausible. Rebecca handled it all with a ruthless efficiency I was paying her for. Every motion they filed, she countered. Every accusation they made, she dismantled with evidence. She was worth every penny of her retainer, and by the end of the proceedings, she had become something like a friend. The forensic analysis, when it came back, confirmed what I already knew: the photos were authentic, the timestamps were accurate, and there was no evidence of manipulation. Marcus's own digital footprint, the hotel reservations, the credit card charges, the text messages stored on his carrier's servers, corroborated everything. His emails had never been permanently deleted from the cloud backup his family's IT department maintained. His phone records showed calls to Kelsey at times when he told me he was in meetings. The evidence was overwhelming. And Marcus, faced with a choice between a drawn-out trial that would expose every sordid detail of his affair to the public record or a quiet settlement that preserved some shred of the Callahan family's dignity, chose the settlement. The fidelity clause was enforced. I walked away with $2.4 million, full ownership of our house, and a formal apology from Marcus's family's legal team for the aggressive litigation tactics they'd employed. The apology was part of the settlement agreement. Rebecca had insisted on it, knowing how much the public admission of wrongdoing would sting a family that prided itself on never backing down. But the money wasn't the real victory. The real victory was watching Marcus's carefully constructed life crumble around him. His father, Harrison Callahan, was furious, not about the affair, but about the financial damage and the public embarrassment. The Callahan family prided themselves on discretion, on keeping their scandals buried so deep that even the most determined journalists couldn't unearth them. Marcus had brought shame on the family name in a way that couldn't be erased or rewritten. The settlement was a matter of public record. The fidelity clause, with its explicit language about adultery, was discussed in legal publications as a cautionary tale about prenuptial agreements. Within weeks of the settlement, Marcus was quietly removed from his position at his father's firm. The official explanation was restructuring, but everyone in their social circle knew the truth. He'd been cut off, not just from the company, but from the family's inner circle. Last I heard, he was working at a mid-tier investment company in another state, trying to rebuild his career from the ground up without the Callahan name opening doors for him. His mother, Victoria, still sent me holiday cards. I never responded, but I didn't throw them away either. There was something almost poetic about maintaining that fragile connection, a reminder that not everyone in that family had been complicit in Marcus's betrayal. Kelsey fared worse. I debated whether to confront her directly. Part of me wanted to see her face when she realized I knew everything, wanted to hear her try to justify the unjustifiable, wanted to watch her squirm under the weight of her own guilt. In my darker moments, I fantasized about showing up at her apartment and laying out every piece of evidence, forcing her to acknowledge what she'd done. But Rebecca had advised against it. "She's not worth your energy," she'd said. And frankly, confronting her gives her the opportunity to play victim. Right now, she has to sit with her choices in silence. Let the consequences speak for themselves. So instead, I let the truth do its work. Kelsey worked in marketing at a firm where reputation was everything. Client relationships, personal branding, public image, these were the currencies her career traded in. When the divorce proceedings became a matter of public record, as divorce proceedings in our county always did, her name was attached to every filing. Every email exchange was documented. Every hotel receipt was cataloged. And those photographs from the storage closet, while not published, were described in clinical detail by the forensic experts who authenticated them. Her colleagues read the court documents. Of course they did. People always do when scandal touches someone they know. The whispers started almost immediately, first in private group chats, then at lunch tables, then in the open hallways of her office building. She wasn't fired. Not officially. The HR department was too careful for that, too aware of the legal liability that came with terminating an employee for something that happened in her personal life. But her projects dried up. Her clients requested transfers to other account managers, citing personality conflicts and strategic realignment. Her colleagues stopped inviting her to lunches and after-work gatherings. Within 2 months, she'd voluntarily resigned to pursue other opportunities. The last I heard, she'd moved to another city entirely. Started over, under her middle name, at a small agency that didn't run deep background checks on its employees or follow industry gossip with particular interest. I hope she thinks of me every day. I hope she wakes up in the middle of the night, remembering the moment she chose to betray her best friend. I hope the weight of that choice never fully lifts from her shoulders. But honestly, I've stopped caring whether she suffers or thrives. Her fate is her own now. And mine is mine. But the real closure came from an unexpected source. 6 weeks after the settlement, I received a letter. Not an email, not a text, an actual handwritten letter, delivered to Natalie's apartment where I was still staying while the house sale finalized. The envelope was cream-colored, heavy stock, with my name written in elegant cursive. It was from Marcus's mother, Victoria. I'd met Victoria exactly 4 times during my relationship with Marcus. She was old money through and through, pearls at breakfast, charity galas on weekends, a smile that never quite reached her eyes. She'd never warmed to me. During our first meeting, she'd spent most of the dinner interrogating me about my family's background, my education, my career prospects. She'd ask pointed questions about my parents' divorce, about whether instability ran in the family. I'd left that meal feeling small and inadequate, convinced she thought I wasn't good enough for her son. I was wrong about what she was thinking. But not in the way I'd assumed. The letter was 3 pages long, written in the same elegant cursive as the envelope. In it, Victoria apologized, not on Marcus's behalf, but on her own. She'd known, she wrote. Not about the affair specifically, but about who Marcus really was. She'd watched him manipulate girlfriends throughout his 20s, charm them with grand gestures while betraying them behind closed doors. She'd seen the pattern repeat itself with 3 different women before me, each one discarded when Marcus grew bored or when they got too close to the truth. I told myself it wasn't my place to warn you, she wrote. I told myself that every son deserves the chance to become a better man than his father was. I hoped marriage would change him. I hoped you would change him. But hope is not a strategy, and I should have known better. She went on to describe her own marriage to Harrison Callahan, the affairs, the lies, the decades of looking the other way because divorce would have meant scandal, would have meant admitting failure. The Callahan men are constitutionally incapable of fidelity, she wrote. My husband cheated on me for 37 years before I found the courage to leave. I didn't want the same fate for you. And yet, I did nothing to prevent it. She ended the letter with a piece of advice: build a life that belongs only to you. Never give another person the power to unmake it. And if you ever need anything, a reference, a connection, a friend who understands, you know where to find me. I cried when I finished reading. Not because I was sad, but because for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt genuinely seen. Victoria Callahan, of all people, had offered me something her son never had: honesty. The house sold 3 weeks later. I considered keeping it at first. The settlement gave me full ownership, and there was something appealing about claiming the space that had once been ours, about erasing Marcus's presence from every room and making it mine alone. But every corner held a memory I didn't want to keep. The kitchen where we'd cooked dinner together. The living room where he'd proposed. The bedroom where I'd slept beside a man I thought I knew. The new owners were a young couple expecting their first child. They planned to turn the guest room into a nursery, they said during the walkthrough. They wanted to paint the walls yellow and install a skylight so the baby could watch the stars. I smiled and wished them well and handed over the keys without looking back. I bought a small cottage in a quiet neighborhood, half an hour from the city. It had a garden that needed tending, overgrown rose bushes and a vegetable patch that had gone feral, and windows that let in the morning light in a way that made every room feel alive. The porch wrapped around 2 sides of the house, wide enough for a swing and a small table and 2 chairs that nobody sat in except me. The first night I slept there, I lay awake for hours, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of my new home. The creak of the floorboards settling. The wind moving through the trees outside my window. The absolute silence of a house that held no memories of betrayal, no ghosts of promises broken. I slept better than I had in months. Natalie helped me move in. We spent a weekend painting walls and assembling furniture and arguing over where to hang pictures. She'd been my rock through all of it: the revelation, the investigation, the divorce, the aftermath, and I knew I could never fully repay her for the hours she'd spent holding me while I fell apart. But she didn't want repayment. She just wanted me to be okay. On the last night of the move, we sat on my new porch with glasses of wine and watched the sunset turn the sky orange and pink. The air smelled like autumn leaves and fresh paint, like endings and beginnings all at once. You know what I keep thinking about? I said, swirling the last of my wine. What? Diane. The photographer. I watched the colors deepen on the horizon. She could have just deleted those photos. She could have decided it wasn't her business, that telling me would only cause pain, that some things are better left unknown. A lot of people would have made that choice. I shook my head slowly. But she didn't. She called me. She showed me the truth. She gave me the choice of what to do with it. She saved your life, Natalie said simply. She saved my life, I agreed. And I never even properly thanked her. The next morning, I drove to Diane's studio with a bouquet of flowers and a handwritten note. The note had taken me 3 hours to write, drafts scattered across my kitchen table as I searched for words that felt adequate. In the end, I'd settled for something simple: you gave me the truth when a comfortable lie would have been easier. Thank you for believing I was strong enough to handle it. She cried when she read it. So did I. I wasn't sure I did the right thing, she admitted, setting the flowers in a vase on her desk. There were days I regretted making that call. I'd lie awake wondering if I'd caused more harm than good, if ignorance really was bliss, if you would have been happier never knowing. Ignorance wasn't bliss, I said firmly. Bliss was a lie. You gave me the truth. And the truth, as painful as it was, set me free. She hugged me tightly, and I let myself be held by this woman I barely knew, this stranger who had shown me more integrity than my husband and best friend combined. What will you do now? She asked when we finally pulled apart. I'd been thinking about that question constantly. For weeks, survival had been my only goal: get through the divorce, get through the settlement, get through each day without falling apart. But survival wasn't a life. It was just existing, just going through the motions, just marking time until something better came along. I was done waiting for something better. I was ready to build it myself. I'm going back to school, I said. I always wanted to study architecture. Design spaces that make people feel safe. I smiled. Maybe I'll design a house someday. A real home. Something that belongs only to me. Diane smiled back. I'd love to photograph it when you do. It's been 18 months now since that phone call that changed everything. I'm finishing my first year of architecture school. My grades are strong, not perfect, but respectable, which is more than I expected given how much of my first semester was spent processing the emotional aftermath of my divorce. My professors say I have an eye for structure, for the way light moves through a space, for the subtle details that make a building feel alive. One of them, a woman who designed museums in Europe before moving here to teach, pulled me aside after class last month and told me I had real talent. She said it matter-of-factly, without flattery, and I believed her. The program is demanding, but I love it. I love the late nights at my drafting table, the satisfaction of solving spatial problems, the way a good design can make you feel something just by existing. I'm learning to see the world differently, to notice how a doorway frames a view, how a ceiling height affects mood, how the placement of a window can change everything about a room. I'm dating again, carefully, slowly, with the kind of boundaries I never knew how to set before. His name is Grant. He's a carpenter who restores historic homes, coaxing beautiful details out of crumbling plaster and rotting wood. He has kind eyes and calloused hands and a laugh that sounds like coming home. We met at a salvage yard, of all places. I was looking for vintage hardware for a class project, he was sourcing original fixtures for a Victorian renovation. We argued over a set of brass door handles, then ended up getting coffee to apologize for the argument, and somehow that coffee turned into dinner, and dinner turned into this slow, careful thing that neither of us has tried to rush. He knows about Marcus. I told him on our third date, because I'd learned my lesson about secrets, about the way unspoken truths can fester and grow until they poison everything they touch. Grant listened without judgment, asked a few questions, then said something I'll never forget: "That's not a story about you. That's a story about him. We're taking things one day at a time. That's all I'm capable of right now, and he understands. He doesn't push for more than I'm ready to give, and I don't ask him to fill the spaces that still ache with emptiness. We're building something together, slowly, carefully, with intention, and for the first time in years, I believe it might actually last." Some nights, I still dream about Marcus. About Kelsey. About that storage closet and those photographs and the moment my world split in two. The dreams are less frequent now, but they haven't stopped entirely. Maybe they never will. Maybe betrayal leaves scars that fade but never fully disappear. But I've learned something in the 18 months since that phone call: scars are just proof of survival. They're evidence that something tried to break you and failed. They're marks of strength, not weakness. I was broken. But I put myself back together. Piece by piece, day by day, choice by choice. And the woman I've become, the woman who sets boundaries and demands respect and refuses to be diminished by someone else's choices, is someone I'm proud of. Someone I'm grateful to know. Someone worth being. A note to anyone reading this who has been where I've been. Betrayal by the people closest to you can feel like the end of everything. The ground beneath your feet cracks open, and you're certain you'll fall forever. But you won't. The ground will steady. You will find your footing. And one day, not soon, but someday, you will realize that the person who hurt you did not destroy you. They revealed you. They showed you exactly how strong you are, how resilient, how capable of rebuilding from ashes. The love you thought you lost wasn't real, but the love you're learning to give yourself? That's the truest thing you'll ever know. Hold on to it. Let it guide you forward. And trust that the best chapters of your story haven't been written yet.